What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to Let's Talk Teeth. Today we have the Dr. Jason Auerbach. Jason, thank you for joining us. It's been a long time in the making. For those of our listeners who don't know, would you mind kind of introducing yourself, where you went to school, and what you're doing now? And we can kind of just go from there.
Sure, absolutely. First of all, thank you guys for having me. I appreciate it
Of
tremendously.
course.
I'm looking forward to this very much. My name is Jason Auerbach. I finished dental school back when maybe some of you guys weren't even born, or some of the people listening to this, in 1999.
Yeah.
I trained at Kings County Hospital and SUNY Downstate Medical Center in oral maxillofacial surgery. I started a practice back in 2007 called Riverside Oral Surgery,
Okay.
which grew in northern and central New Jersey to about 10 or 11 locations, and then really thought about the next steps as things were changing in the industry
Right.
and private equity was stepping in.
Right.
I knew that I didn't want to sell to a general dental DSO.
Sure.
I didn't want to sell to a multi-specialty DSO. And I really didn't want to just be a plug and play in an existing oral
Right.
surgery DSO. So I
Hmm.
basically started my own. I went out and I found investors, and we created what's called Max Surgical Specialty Management. We now have
Sweet.
nearly 30 offices in 5 states in the Northeast. So
Wow.
pure oral
Yeah,
surgery play, and that's what I do. I'm the
that's awesome.
co-CEO and founder, and yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Right when you got out, did you do an associateship for a little while and then venture off into private practice? How'd that go?
Yeah. And the interesting thing about me is I talk about this whenever I'm on any kind of panel or anything is I basically have, I don't say done it all, but done it all. I was an associate when I came right out of residency. I worked for two of my attendings who saw something in me and brought me in. I was there in Manhattan as an associate for about a year, then became an associate in New Jersey, which is where I'm currently sitting now,
Right.
and had one of those experiences like most, at least in my generation, where you were promised a whole lot and
Sure.
the things didn't work out maybe hoped, but thankfully they
Yeah.
didn't work out the way I
That's
hoped
awesome.
because
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
So you said you went to Kings County. How was your training at Kings County?
It was great. It was intense. It was the late 90s, early 2000s in Brooklyn before Brooklyn was completely gentrified as it is now. So there was a lot of interpersonal violence. There were a lot of patients who needed a lot of care. So there was a lot of trauma. There was a lot of pathology. The hospital itself was very hands-on. We saw and very busy.
Sure.
So it prepared me to do things that I could never ever imagine now doing. But back then we were doing some pretty amazing
For
things,
sure.
and it prepared me. I speak about this a lot too. As an oral maxillofacial surgeon, part of the training is really you're prepared to handle anything. Not that you're necessarily going to do all the things that you did when you were training,
Sure.
some don't, but that you realize the complications that come your way or the little kind of snafus that might occur in your day to day easily dealt with because of the real stuff that you've dealt with in the
For
past.
sure.
Yeah.
So going into what you're practicing with now, you mentioned that you started Riverside and now you're part of the Max's specialty management course.
Yeah.
How did that transition and how does that differ from a private equity group in a general dentistry field if this is only for oral surgeons?
Yeah, oral surgery, the part of why I did it myself was I feel like oral maxillofacial surgery, I say this with love to anyone who's not interested in oral maxillofacial surgery. I think it's the best specialty in all of healthcare. And I think that it's very unique. And because it's so unique, there are needs that oral maxillofacial surgeons have that really can't be met in the general dental space. A lot of oral surgeons come out and they work in general dental DSOs or they work in general dental offices, and there are a lot of just surgically minded general
Sure.
dentists. But being an oral maxillofacial surgeon and functioning as a standalone oral maxillofacial surgery practice has its own unique kind of set of stuff that we deal with.
Right.
We
Hmm.
are, if you want to take it from a business perspective, we are a B2B, right? So we are a referral based management business. We are all about our referring doctors and communicating
Right.
with our referring doctors and being available to them. Very different than the direct to consumer model of a general dental office, where even if there are multiple
Hmm.
specialists within the general dental office, it's again direct to consumer, captive audience. We have to really rebuild our practice every single year. So that unique set of challenges
Right.
is best supported by those who have done who.
Nice. So we're bouncing around everywhere here, but I'm just curious what's the biggest challenge you've faced with Mac so far? And like, how do you see it's a double question, but how do you see the foreseeable future of Macs? Like, what are the goals behind it?
I think the biggest challenge is trying to scale a
Yeah,
culture. I think that's like anything. There are good DSOs out there. There are bad DSOs out there. It's like human beings.
sure.
Everybody's got their strengths and their weaknesses. Part of what was great about Riverside Oral Surgery, Riverside still exists, by the
Okay.
way. What is great about Riverside Oral Surgery is the culture that we developed by basically growing from the ground up.
Right.
Then you go and you partner with practices that have a different culture. The beauty of Max is this concept of collaboration and that we all bring something to the table and we all learn from each other.
Right.
So that has helped rise everybody's game to some
Sure.
degree. But the culture piece um, can vastly differ from practice to practice.
Right.
And sometimes having people understand what the benefit of one versus the other can be a little bit of a challenge.
Sure.
Everything else has been really, we've been very fortunate. We've been able to partner with some really good docs who have really raised everybody's game,
Mm.
and we've been doing it consistently.
Yeah,
And so the business is really good,
that's awesome.
thankfully.
And that was leading into my next question is I know you're a unicorn in this OMS realm to have an entrepreneurial mindset, but also enjoy the surgery as well. Off of that, what kind of gave you the necessary tools you need to like understand the financials? It goes into reading the P&L, learning about how much is private equity going to offer you? Is this a fair amount? Is this all independent
Yeah.
study or did you have
Yeah, and honestly, I'm still learning. So my skill set, I am very entrepreneurial. I've always been very entrepreneurial, and it is a unique, not I wouldn't say unicorn per se, but a unique combination to like to have the clinical love and to have the love for and aptitude for business, right?
right?
So those two things working together have helped me tremendously, and I believe have helped Max. I think that there is a lot of information out there. There are a lot of people out there who would put themselves out there to be like experts in the field, but really your generation in particular is you guys go out and seek knowledge and have all this knowledge and information at your fingertips.
Sure.
So long as you know that the sources that you're using are appropriate and adequate and vast, you're going to be you fine. My strength was never in the finance and accounting or anything like that, never. But I built a team around me who have complementary skill sets but understand the vision.
Sure. That makes
And
perfect sense.
so we have a tremendous group of individuals whose mission is to
Right.
passionately support and serve our surgeons.
Sure.
So I do what I do well, those guys do what they do, and together we all do well.
Is there, I know you really have gone down this rabbit hole of like entrepreneurship versus when you came out of practice, maybe you did, but I assume you didn't imagine that you were going to be in the position you are now. What would you recommend for residents or new grads that really want to make an impact in the business world along with the oral surgery world? Like, how would you go about it in today's world?
I think this is something that I would um, really try to hammer home to you guys and everyone of your generation is there's so much that can be learned that needs to be learned from experience. A lot of you guys, and this is not a slant, like this is not like a knock, this is really a fact. A lot of you guys have, because you have access to all this information and this whole entrepreneur life is glorified on social, and you this concept that like it can be done. I can tell you firsthand that there are people out there that are influential who are doing none of what they say they're doing or very little of what they do.
Sure.
And so the only real way to do it and to become successful is to really pay your dues. You can't know the first thing about running a practice without for the first time understanding that your lead assistant and her second assistant for some reason can't get along
Right.
that day, and how do you deal with that? Like
Understanding
you
people.
can't
Mhm.
you have to go through these things. You have to learn from your mistakes. You have to learn from your
I see.
perceived failures so that you can build something and succeed.
Makes sense.
I started Riverside in 2007. I look back at 2007, 2015, 2020 even blows my mind how different I see the world. And again, from your seats, you're like, this is an older guy. Like the world is much quicker now and all this kind of shit, but humanity is humanity. I was in your position 20 years ago, I guess maybe 25,
Sure.
30 years ago, the fuck it was. And in any case, I was in your position and people my age would be like, yeah, whatever. That's an old guy. He doesn't know shit.
Yeah.
But the fact is that I do believe that generationally speaking, because we as people my age who are adapters and adopters of technology,
Sure.
social and whatever, we are a little bit younger than let's say my parents' generation were to me. So I
Mhm.
really am telling you, basically, to cut it short, you got to do shit
Yeah. Makes
before you
sense.
can think you can.
Makes
Yeah,
perfect
Yeah,
sense.
makes sense.
yeah.
But I have a question about the scaling of it. So you'd mentioned that y'all are in 30 locations, 5 states. What is your ultimate goal for Max? Do you want to be in the Northeast area, or would you like to spread all over the US and eventually be like kind of the forefront leaders of oral surgery?
So my personal long-term goal is to really build a practice or a platform that is ultimately widespread.
Right.
Our
Mm,
goal, but I don't think in those terms. Right now, my near-term goal is to build really significant geographic density from a business perspective, but to
mhm,
continue to raise the bar in terms of what does it mean to do healthcare at scale, right? There's this kind of negative implication, or people perceive private equity backed businesses as in somehow decreased care. And those two things, I
mm.
don't think they necessarily need to
Right.
be grouped together. In
That's a
fact,
true
I
generalization,
think,
though.
I'm
That's a
sorry.
true generalization, though. Like people, that's how
Yeah,
people think.
yeah, but I will tell you right now, like the beauty of Max is I wrote it into the charter of the organization. We have a clinical advisory board that is autonomous and independent and deals with every single thing that's related to delivery of care, so that the only surgeons, just doctors on this board who make all the decisions as it relates through collaboration, discussion, and whatever to delivery of care, so that the care is never
Right.
compromised. That's why for me, my true like large scale goal is to change the way that healthcare at scale is seen. That's what I want to do, big picture.
Sure.
But now what we're doing is we're growing in the Northeast, and we want to really create a business that we can be proud of. And that's what it comes down. I didn't start Riverside. You mentioned this before. I didn't start Riverside to sell River. There was
Mhm.
no private equity interested in healthcare at the time. I started Riverside to build the best oral maxillofacial surgery practice in the world. Elevate the standard of care, to create the optimal patient experience, to bring hospitality into healthcare, which it wasn't at the time when I was starting. And so I was when things changed and private equity became interested not just in general dentistry but specialty dental surgery specifically, and
Right.
M&A was huge like 3-4 years
Right.
ago, it became obvious to me like where my business was going to go.
And I like how you mentioned before you're scaling culture, not scaling a business. And ultimately, if you have that culture throughout, patients are going to see that and they're going to come to appreciate it.
That's right.
So kudos to you for bringing that forward.
Thank
But
you.
for the listeners who aren't familiar, you mentioned scaling a healthcare business versus scaling a regular business. I'm aware of the differences, but do you mind delving into those? And then as well, after, would you mind explaining how y'all's private equity group, Max, is different from the other oral surgery groups, such as, I don't know, Nuvia or companies like that?
Yeah, so I'll take those things in reverse. And Clear Choice and these businesses are, for people who may not know, they are businesses that are designed really around the implant space,
Mm,
specifically the full arch space. There are businesses that are pure or full scope oral maxillofacial surgical plays, like similar to Max or of the ilk of Max. But the thing about Max is that we are constantly reinvesting in our surgeons, in our education, in our technology, in our offices, in education, in every single thing that we can do to continue to improve the patient experience. We have full scope oral maxillofacial surgery. We're not just exodontists. We're not just meaning taking teeth out. We're not just doing implants and wisdom teeth and this kind of stuff. We have head and neck surgeons in our practice. We have facial cosmetic surgeons in our practice. We have cleft and craniofacial. We do orthodontic surgery.
Wow.
We
Yeah.
still do trauma, pathology, the whole thing. So we are a true kind of like old school oral full scope oral maxillofacial surgery.
Sure.
We have fellowship trained surgeons in all the subspecialties within oral maxillofacial surgery and pride ourselves on that. We have female leadership, we have multicultural leadership, and we pride ourselves on that. We have doctors in non-clinical leadership roles. We have one of our surgeons, Dr. Akila Brown, is head of DI and community outreach. We have our medical director, Margot Friedberg, sorry, who is really heads up the entire medical side of the practice and does an extremely exceptional job. And so, realistically speaking, we are differentiated in many, many ways from any other oral maxillofacial surgery,
Mhm.
any other service industry,
Sure.
massage therapy, or even
Right.
physical therapy, which is obviously healthcare. It's just a different type of healthcare, obviously. We're not looking to see as many patients as humanly possible to get patients through.
Sure.
What we're trying to do is create the best outcomes and continue to build our reputation because all healthcare is local. And if you don't realize that, if you're an investor, if you're looking to invest in specialty dentistry and you don't realize that the relationship between the specialist and his or her referring doctors is at the core of what's going to make you successful, you're going to fail because you're going to piss off the docs. They're going to go elsewhere, and
Yeah.
that's really
Yeah.
that's
Understandable. That's the truth. Turning
Mhm.
the tables a little bit here. If I'm not mistaken, you just started an official podcast. Is that correct?
yeah, I did with Aquila Brown. Yeah, it's called the Full Scope, which is a nod to oral maxillofacial surgery, but the fact that we talk about everything, different differences in perspective in life and stuff like that, which is yeah, I've been on a lot of podcasts and
It was
it
time.
no, I've been on a lot of podcasts, and I feel like I
Yeah.
have something to say. I feel like people want to hear what I have to
For sure.
say. Aquila as well, Dr. Brown as well. It just seemed like the right time, which is just another thing in terms of my bandwidth. We talk about like people who are curating an image but not really doing it. I practice full oral surgery days a week. I see patients Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, half day Friday. I do business Monday, business development in the evening every evening. I do podcasts like this. I do my podcast on the weekend.
Yeah.
I still post on BloodyToothGuy, so it's
For sure.
pretty full.
And one thing I can appreciate, just to give you some credit here, is whenever we reached out like last year, it seems like you're very good at really just like committing yourself to things. Because whenever we reached out to Lisa and all, it was never no, he can't make time for you. It was like he can make time for you. Let me just see in his busy schedule
Yeah.
how he can get you in there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
just want to show some respect for
I
that, man.
appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah, listen, one could say I should probably say no more, right? Those are one of the principles of like success and
Right.
time management and all that. But honestly, I love this because you guys are the future of what we're doing here.
Sure.
So it's going to be amazing to see for me where guys like you take this,
Yeah.
take the social piece, yes,
Sure.
but where dentistry is going to be 20 years when I'm
Yeah.
70 and hopefully
For sure.
probably not really chair side anymore.
With the social piece, I did want to know from pick your brain a little bit. Do you have any recommendations? The social game wasn't a thing really 20, 30 years ago when you were practicing, and it's definitely
Zero.
evolved a lot. So, what are
Yeah.
your recommendations to getting into the game now, or is it necessary, or what are your thoughts on
Yeah,
that?
it's part of building a brand. Having an Instagram account or TikTok account where you're where some marketing company is just managing and putting up still images or even videos that are B-roll or stock footage or whatever or digital images for Thanksgiving or whatever. None of that shit matters at all. You need it like you need a website. When I started out, I had a like website day one, before day one.
Right.
The older guys didn't have websites. They didn't think it was necessarily necessary. That is a fact in the like early
Yeah, that's
2000s.
wild.
People didn't necessarily have a website. That is a standard now. You need it. And then it was like, is your website mobile friendly? That was something that happened. And then it was like, the fact is you need a social media presence. You probably don't need a social media presence to be successful, but it's an
Sure.
expectation. And if you're looking to build a brand, it's definitely part of the equation. Listen, eyeballs are eyeballs. The fact is, I don't. my business isn't significantly better because I'm Bloody Tooth Guy, but my personal brand is, my reach is, my influence
Sure.
is. I'm here because of that, not because I've built a business that is. Let's be real. If I wasn't Bloody Tooth Guy, and you wouldn't necessarily know that I built
Yeah,
a
that's
business. So that's how you have to look at it.
for sure.
But yeah, for those of you who don't follow Dr. Auerbach on Instagram, I mean, he has got, I think you're probably the most followed person we've had on our podcast. So
Appreciate that.
shout out to you for making time. But I was wondering, you mentioned that you have a new podcast. Could you explain what that's about and just give us a synopsis of what it is so our listeners can check it out?
Sure. It's called The Full Scope. Dr. Keela Brown and I um, basically, I don't go head to head, but we speak and have guests. The first one which is the only one that's yet been released, is just Akila and me talking about life and our how we got here. It's more or less the pilot. Now, the ones that are coming down the pipe are a little bit more specific, but it's really all about life. It's really about what it is to be in healthcare, what it is to be a female in
For
healthcare,
sure.
or an older dude who's doing it, or whatever. It's just us talking about life, and it's relatable because we come at it from different
Right.
places, but we love each other. We're great friends. We are colleagues,
Right.
mutual respect and positivity
Yeah.
and all of that. So
That's
it's good.
awesome too that she's involved because I feel like there's a lot of careers that are male dominated, but historically, oral surgery is like significantly male dominated. So,
Yeah, yeah. So that's a fact. I think it's maybe 8 or 9% female. Now, if you look at most oral maxillofacial surgery entering classes, there are only 250 to 300 and something total positions that finish every year.
right.
Now, many of them are 50% female.
For sure.
I think that's that. So you're gonna see a major shift,
Yeah.
which is a good thing for our profession. And listen, more when I was coming through, very few women, and very few women. There were still women who were like not necessarily thinking it was like appropriate, or like that could they do it or whatever. I
Right.
mean,
Makes sense.
it's a good thing. It's a good
I mean,
thing.
even now, dental school acceptance rates, I feel like they're shifting more towards females. So I'm sure oral surgery will follow suit.
Yeah, it has. It already has for sure. When I was in dental school, it was like 55% male dental school, and now I think it's shifted
Yeah.
inversely. It's probably 55% female or something like that. That's
Yeah.
so.
That's
Yeah.
wild, man. Stepping away from dentistry a little bit, what do you like to do to just escape all of this madness that you encounter on a daily or weekly basis?
So what I guess my primary thing that I do, my primary
Yeah.
kind of hobby or interest is live music. I see a lot of
Nice.
live music. I live in New York. I'm 6 miles from New York City right now, so I see music all the time. At least once a week, I try to see some sort of a show.
Yeah.
I travel. Travel for me is tremendous. It's
Yeah.
important. I'm currently on a 4 week health and fitness
I
journey.
saw that.
Yeah, yeah. So that's been good and actually transformative.
Yeah.
Essentially, forget the weight piece. It's like mindset and feeling better,
Sure.
sleeping better,
Is
and
this diet
that
and like exercise, or is it all?
diet and exercise. It's the concept is for me, or has been for me, is let's say just find the time to get there. I really do work like a crazy person, so just to even find a half an hour, 45 minutes, an hour, to me can sometimes be difficult. I had to prove myself in that first week that I could just get my ass to the gym for a half an hour. So it's
Awesome.
now 25. Today will be 26 days, the 28 day like
Yeah,
first. So fitness, nutrition, sleeping, mindfulness, and that's kind
that's
of
awesome.
where I am right
Yeah.
now.
What
Yeah.
big nutrition addition have you added to your routine? What is there anything crazy you eat or anything?
It No, it's been more subtraction than addition.
Easy math.
It's been yeah. So because of what I do for the business, there's a lot of business development dinners. Those dinners, meaning going out with either referring doctors who send us patients,
Sure.
or going out with surgeons who we're hopeful will either join our platform or join us as an associate. there's a lot of entertaining. That entertaining often comes with vodka. That vodka comes with feeling like shit the next day and eating unnecessarily and making wrong decisions in that as it relates to nutrition. So less drinking, fewer carbohydrates on a daily basis, though not none, and really just kind of just being mindful about what I'm putting into my body.
Yeah. And
That's
just going down a little bit more of that area, what type of mindfulness stuff are you getting into? Because I feel like that's a overlooked area often when you're trying to get physically right, you forget the mindfulness. So what are you doing there?
Wi- I'm trying to learn the meditation concept. That is a very foreign concept to me. I am just my nature is I am probably not I am undiagnosed but undoubtedly ADD. I am somebody who's just constantly on the go, and for me it's very challenging to keep focused on anyone
Me and
because
you both.
literally as I talk to anybody I think of, oh, how do I create a business around that or something creative around that
Right.
and all of that. I breath work, honestly,
Yeah.
breathing.
Sure.
That's a huge thing for me. Box breathing is something that I'm like seeing the benefit of. And I think really just being intentional about my
Right.
actions, trying to be less reactive, more thoughtful. Those just all it's very simple stuff.
Yeah.
Very simple type of stuff.
Awesome. As we close here, do you have any final advice for dental students or people who are just getting out? And really, what I want to get out of this final advice is let's step away from like oral surgery and honestly, let's just step away from maybe even dentistry, just kind of life in general. What would you want your future or your younger self to hear if you were able to talk back to younger Jason Auerbach?
Yeah, I talk about this to my kids. So I have a daughter who's a junior in college and I have another daughter who's a senior in high school. I talk about really a couple of different things. The first thing being primarily is you want to put yourself in a position to have options that you're in the position, the driver's seat to make choices, right?
Sure.
So whatever stage in life you're in, you really want to do as well as you can in whatever stage that you're in to keep your options open in the future. You also want to meet as many people as you possibly can who are doing things you perceive you may want to do.
Sure.
You want to take risk in the sense that you want to ask.
Right.
You do not get in this world what you deserve or what you perceive you deserve. You get in this world what you ask for. So you want to self advocate and you want to just expose yourself to as many different things, as many different ideas, and as many different experiences as you possibly
Sure.
can. And I think save some time to have a good time. I know that like my generation versus your generation, we always rip your generation from. We're like
Yeah.
we worked for 75 hours a day, and it
For
was
sure.
we never went away. I didn't take a vacation for the first 7 years of Riverside, and you guys like go to Lake Como and when you're a student, it doesn't even compute to our
Yeah.
generation.
That's the truth.
But I know, but you should enjoy, but you should also try to find.
Work hard,
I
play
hate the
hard.
word balance but yeah, play hard, work hard, play hard. You should enjoy yourselves for sure, but you should also realize that by busting your ass now, ultimately you're going to get what you want. Again, you're looking at me, I'm 51 years old. I didn't buy like a fancy car until I was 40. I didn't really travel the way I travel until I was in my 40s and stuff like that. When I was in my 20s and my 30s, I was learning, I was hustling, I was paying my dues, I was doing more than was asked of so that in the end I could have, what
For
I
sure.
think I have now, which is still not even close to where I want to go. So it's a long road.
Yeah.
It's a long road.
Yeah, I mean,
Thank you, sir.
you've made it this far, and we look forward to seeing all the amazing things that Max and the things that you do on social media. We're excited to see what's in store for you. So,
Thank you. And for yours,
Dr. Auerbach, yeah, we appreciate it, man. That's all that we got, but
no
thank you so
trouble.
much for your time. We really appreciate it, and I'm sure our listeners really enjoy this.
Thank you, sir.
Of
Thank you.
course.
And no trouble at all. Anything you guys need, any questions that your listeners may have, I really do respond to my DMs and stuff on Bloody Tooth Guy. So I'm happy to answer any
I can
questions
attest.
ever.
Appreciate it, man.
Perfect. No worries. No worries. Thank you.